Excellent. Hello, everyone. My name is Michel. I'm delighted to welcome Michael Quaglia today, who is a radio DJ at Radio Parkies and founder of Two Mics, the Parkinson's podcast. I would like to say a few things before we get started. The first thing is that, as you have heard, this session is being recorded. And second, and this is maybe stating the obvious, but I'm reminding everyone that the information provided during this session is purely for information and educational purposes. It's no substitute to medical advice. If you are seeking medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment, you should consult a medical professional. We know that, but I just thought it would be useful to remind everyone. So just a few words about our group and answering Michael's earlier question before we got started with this session. How did it come about that we started this group called No Silver Bullet? Some of us attended a tutorial on nutrition and Parkinson's in the summer of 2020. It was a Zoom session in July in the summer, 3.5 days. And after that session, some of us decided to stay in touch. And slightly jokingly, we decided to name our small group of 5 or 6, 7 people, No Silver Bullet. But actually the less jokey part of it was that No Silver Bullet reflected the fact that we sincerely were thinking and still are thinking that we need a holistic approach to managing our symptoms. At the end of last year, so a few months into the creation of this small group, we started having external speakers every couple of weeks, people who just exactly help us think holistically, and some of them are on the line tonight. We basically learned through them either inspiring aspects of managing our symptoms, people who basically just show us ways in which they're managing theirs and inspire us as to doing the same, or people who sometimes would help us from a more technical standpoint or scientific standpoint. Research studies were presented to us, specific methods for managing symptoms, such as basically radio light therapy, red light therapy were presented to us. And all those sessions are available on our YouTube channel. If you look at the chat, you will see that I've listed there. I may list it again later. I have listed there the name of our YouTube channel. You can basically see various sessions that we have done in the past, and you will be able to see tonight's session from a couple of days from now. Otherwise, we also created a Twitter feed just today, and we have also an Instagram page. All the details are to be found on the chat, and you can see there that the name No Silver Bullet is common to all those feeds or pages. But let's come back to today's topic. Diagnosed in 2006, Michael is dedicated to helping others manage Parkinson's. He has done this in co-founding an affiliate of Rocksteady Boxing in 2014. He's done this also in working with the Radio Parkies since 2016 and setting up the Two Mics Parkinson's podcast. The goal of Radio Parkies is really to give a forum to people like us to be able to talk openly about their diagnosis and how they deal with their symptoms, generally speaking. So Michael, thank you very much for joining us today. This was a short intro. I think that you are really the main part of the menu tonight, if you allow me to say so. Let's just maybe get started by asking you to just say a few words about your journey since you were diagnosed in 2006, if you don't mind. You have to unmute yourself, I'm sorry. Michael, you will need to unmute yourself. There it is. That's right, you've done it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, by the way. Thanks for having me on the air, on your show. Okay, a few words about my background. I was diagnosed back in 2006, as you said. I was a sales manager for the company I worked with. And life was great back then. Then all of a sudden I felt my right arm, my left arm wasn't swinging anymore. I felt a twitch in my pinky. So I went to my first neurologist. He referred me he couldn't find anything wrong with me, so he referred me to an orthopedist. And he checked me for my ulnar nerve, that's what they thought it was. But when he realized that, well, that wasn't the problem, I'll never forget the look in his face. He told me he's going to refer me to another neurologist who then diagnosed me with Parkinson's. That was the scariest day of my life. But since then, since 2016, the company I worked with in 2012 was purchased. My voice had no inflection. I had the robotic masked face after we bought out. And I remember my friends jokingly told me I would talk like a robot because there's no inflection. And the new company that bought us out, they thought I didn't have any get up and go, if you know what I mean. They saw me as they couldn't hear any inflection or any excitement from my voice. Mm-hmm. I was pretty tough to deal with, and I focused on that pretty much until 2014 when I came across rock steady boxing in a desperate search to find out if there's anything that can help me. I had all the classic non-motor symptoms, such as the anxiety, depression going on back then, and I had terrible dyskinesia. I was in rough shape. Then I saw the video for rock steady boxing. If you want to play that, it's a good time to play it.
Okay, I'll do that now. Just 1 second.
Can't hear it. Can you hear it, Michael?
Yes, I can. Can anyone else hear it?
No.
Oh.
Hope I can share this video with everyone after through the chat. If you can't, can everybody hear it?
He can share the sound, so we can hear it. It's in via the green button.
Yes, I'm sorry, I can't share the sound. I think I will stop sharing. I'm sorry. Just basically, I'm unable to get the sound working. Sorry, Michael. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Yes, I'm unable to play the sound. I just it plays on my computer. It doesn't play on Zoom. So we'll have to skip that, I'm afraid.
Okay. I can explain as I was saying earlier, I felt all the non-motor symptoms, deep eating, dyskinesia, depression, anxiety. I didn't realize what I was going through then, but I found out through the video that rock steady boxing could really help me. And I fell in love with the program. I put a post out that night for everyone to see, to try to get different gyms involved so I can bring that to my local people. So then I called Rock Steady Boxing themselves, asked if I can join the next class. And they brought me in April. I went out, sought somebody to go with me. I found Rich Chingris, who was a professional fighter at the time at a gym called Fight to Fitness. I explained to him what was going on, and he flew out with me to Indianapolis, and we trained there for like a weekend. Came home, started the program. We grew to over 100 people. As I said, we grew to over 100 people. It was I found out that it was more than just rock steady boxing. It was also a place we could all go and talk to each other about what's going on with our disease, our symptoms. People understood when I talked to them what's going on. And for 8 years, I'd been by myself, fighting through all these issues I had by myself. Rock Steady Boxing was a godsend to me then, and it still is, always will be. because he got me off my ass and fighting back against this disease.
Thank you very much. Did you sort of actually, let's just basically, you know, we're in a small group tonight. I just think, well, what you might just do instead of waiting until the end to ask questions, if you have questions about the Rocksteady boxing part of your life, let's just ask them now. And Mark was basically asking whether you were boxing before you started the Rocksteady basically part of your life. Were you boxing before? Was it a sport you were practicing before?
No, I never boxed in my life. But,
and a question that Mark and I had thought about also as we were preparing this session is that why boxing compared to another sport? I understand there was a social part of it that really helped you. It did help you get off your ass. It just helped you get and meet other people who understood what you were going through. But was it a sport that you picked for any particular reasons compared to other sports?
I love boxing because in that picture that I showed you, for one, that it straightened me out in more ways than you can think of. It helped fight back against symptoms. It's good on your big amplitude movements. It creates neuroplasticity in your brain.
Mm-hmm.
And the high intensity workout is what they found out to be that saves everybody. I'm losing my train of thought. Sorry. Parkinson's 101 right there. I'm losing my train of thought. But neuroplasticity is what it's all about. Does everybody understand what neuroplasticity is?
Yes, I think we are familiar, not as a specialist, but we understand the ability of the brain to regenerate itself.
Exactly. How many, enjoy is a question right there. How many sessions before you started feeling that your symptoms improved? It's a good question. I would say probably within a week I felt better. Not great, but I felt better than I did a week before I started. Symptoms that improved were my stiffness and dyskinesia got improved as well. Just Rocksteady boxing, those were the key symptoms that I was dealing with. In Rocksteady boxing helped me fight through that.
Sharon is asking whether it is basically a local initiative or is it like, I think that you're based in the US, so Rocksteady is in the US, but as far as you're aware, it is present worldwide?
It's present worldwide. When I first started in 2014, there were 33, we were the 33rd affiliate. They have like 900 affiliates now around the world.
So Sharon, maybe that on the web you could find Rocksteady classes closer to your home in the UK.
You can go on rocksteadyboxing.com, they have a search part, you can search for their gyms that they support, and it'll give you a list of gyms that are near your home. If you don't find one, do what I did, go talk to local gyms about Rocksteady boxing. And most people love helping people with boxing from there. Most people take you in and they'll work with you.
Thank you very much, Michael. You see a couple of other questions, like from Mark asking how many times did you box workout? And Stephen is asking, is it the same as boxing training, shadow boxing or boxing sparring?
No, I used to work out 6 days. I worked out 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday. I used to go to work, which took like an hour to drive back from work, go to the gym, come home at 9 o'clock and crash on the couch. About 3 hours a night. That was my life back then.
Good. And Stephen is asking, is it similar to boxing training? So I guess sparring or shadow boxing or?
Similar, but it helps to hit the bag, take out aggression on the heavy bag. That was my favorite part of the gym.
Good. Excellent. Gary is asking about Freddie Roach.
Freddie Roach, he has not been involved in this, but we're trying to get him on our radio show.
Maybe Muhammad Ali as well. Good. Maybe if we have basically spoken quite a bit about the boxing side of your career, or your journey,
My
I should
career.
say, your career in the help of Parkinson's patients, or your journey is a better word. Can we just talk a tiny bit about Radio Parkies, 2016, I think, right?
Yeah.
How did it come about? And I know that it wants to be a forum, but can you tell us a tiny bit more about how it came about and what you're aiming to achieve with Radio Parkies?
Sure. Radio Parkies was founded in 2010 by a gentleman out in Belgium named John Paul de Kramer. The reason I started the show is because I interviewed with Jimmy Smith, who's DJ from USA on Radio Parkies. I was with DBS, and I'm talking with Jimmy. I said, let's do a before and after show, see if there's any improvement. So we did that, and a lot of people listened to the shows, and they're happy with the results. So then Jimmy said, Jimmy, I'm well connected. If you want some people to interview, I can hook you up with some people. And Jimmy said to me, no, we're gonna make you a DJ. I never imagined being a DJ in my life. I was a sales guy. I never knew nothing about being a DJ. But I talked with him and John Paul, and they convinced me to give it a shot. So I asked my friend Mike Asian, who is the comic relief on the show. He's a funny guy, and he always wanted to do this, so he quickly joined the board. He joined the podcast. And our third podcast was with Heather Kennedy. Do you guys know who Heather Kennedy is?
Yeah, not everyone. Actually, I don't personally. I'm sorry. I should be ashamed of myself, but
it's okay. She talks about NonMotor Symptoms all the time. She has a lot of talks about it online. You can look them up. She's done a few videos. She's a very talented lady. And on the third show, I had her come on the program. And we had a great talk about non-motor symptoms. She ended up teaching me about them a lot that I didn't realize what I was going through, as I said earlier. But after she talked with me, that show blew up. I knew right there that I could certainly help a lot of people out there with symptoms by having the right guests on. The show had a great response. And from there, kind of went along with the show as it was set up on Radio Parkies. Then I found out, and after doing some more research, I found out that a podcast will have more life than a live show on Radio Parkies. They post a show on Mixcloud, but it's only like a 2-week shelf life for shows to get listens. So I focused in on the podcast about a year ago. I built the website, and I found the Podbean. The hosting site is called Podbean, and I found them. And I built the website, as I said, and I started the podcast. I do the show still on Thursday nights, but I take that show, convert to the podcast. It's on Podbean and Apple. It's all over the place, and it's very, as I said, and what is it? Excuse me, guys. I'm sorry. I'm not used to talking about myself. But so I went to Podbean to start the podcast, and it started to grow. It's really grown. It went from like about 100 visitors, 100 listeners a show. We're about 500 listeners to each show from live, Mixcloud, and the podcast. And we've really blown up because they added Heather Kennedy and a gentleman named Gavin Mogan to the show. They brought a lot of depth, a lot of great questions, a lot of experience with Parkinson's. People are responding to that to the point where we're at over 1,000, like 1,200 downloads just this past month. It's doing well. I've got a bunch of people lined up as guests. I went from getting people to come in and working with us to dealing with them coming to me. I don't have to chase anymore. To the point where I've actually got, I believe, we're number 2 overall behind Larry Gifford, who's got a great show. And we like talking to people about what they're going through. The goal of the show is to bring people together to talk about their symptoms so they can help other people out there. That's what it's doing right now.
Excellent. So you mentioned Heather Kennedy as one of the inspiring speakers that you had. Are there any other speakers you want to mention, people who've really struck a chord that you have interviewed or that you have had on the show?
We've had Brian Grant on the show. He was a great guest. We've had Maryum Ali. We've had Happy Kennedy, of course, community, and also we've had Linda Olson, who's a great guest. You know who Linda Olson is? Anybody out there know who Linda Olson is?
Yes.
Linda Olson lost 3 limbs in a train accident when she was younger. She was like 20 years old, getting married to her husband. And she kept a great attitude while fighting through. She had two kids, raised a family, got married with 1 limb left, 1 arm. She ended up catching Parkinson's in her 60s and kept a great attitude. She was a great guest. Also loved another great guest was, I lost his name. Okay, here's my list of guests. Matt Eagles. You guys know Matt Eagles?
Oh, yes.
Oh, he's had Parkinson's 45 years. He was amazing. Like, I walked out of that interview just happy myself. He was a great guest. Jimmy Choi was great.
Funnily enough, sorry to interrupt you, Michael. Funnily enough, Mr. Eagles will be a speaker on our program, so to speak, on the 21st of November.
You guys are gonna love him.
Matt Eagles, yes. I think he got Parkinson's when he was 7 or 8 years old, I think.
70, yeah. Had 45 years, 46 years now, I think.
Yes.
Jimmy Choi
will be Jimmy Choi, yeah.
Jimmy Choi was a great guest. I've had him on a few times now. He taught everyone how to live a good life with discipline and work ethic out there. Get exercise, and move and exercise. It's his message, and it's a great message. My buddy Mike Asian, he brought humor. Gavin Morgan, who's on the show now and then, he does acceptance and how our attitude can cure us. He takes little bits of the day. Like if you have a lot of joy in your life, a lot of laughter in your life, you don't think of anything. You don't think of Parkinson's when you're laughing or enjoying life. That's what he gets across in his own way. It's a good message. And Brian Grant.
Talking about that, what would you say is the funniest moment? Because you have had 91 episodes of your podcast, Mark tells me. What was the funniest moment of all?
Funniest moment, but 4 or 5 years ago, we did a live segment called Live DBS. But it really wasn't live DBS. I took all the sound effects from Noise up at DBS, and Mike pretended he was on the operating table. And being operated on by the Three Stooges. It was a funny skit. And plus, this weekend, we talked with Cat Hill. And Cat Hill, she actually rapped for us. I put the music in the background. She was doing Tricky by Run DMC. It was pretty funny. We laughed at that too.
So what's coming up now in terms, you've already interviewed quite a lot of people. Who is coming up now in the next few weeks or months? Who do you want to mention?
Next few weeks, as I said, I'm working on, hang on, 1 second. Next week we have John Braddock is going to come on the show. Yes, John Braddock wrote the book YOPD. He's got a second book coming out. The book's about people with Parkinson's who inspire others. And he's on a second book, and I'm in that one too. He's gonna have me in that. He's telling my story in that book as well. He's coming on. I'm working on Freddie Roach too, because I know his nephew Ryan I know his nephew. He's gonna hook me up with him too. We have Pete Langman coming on this week too. He's from the Bay City Rollers. You guys know who they are? Is that here the Bay City Rollers? No.
I'm not familiar with them.
They're a pop band. They're a pop band from 1970. It's an old one. Thanks, Choi, for knowing. but he's coming on. And he was a great interview. He'll be on
everyone knows them apart from me. Excellent. So what would be your dream guest, the one that you probably think that you will never get, but if you could dream of someone basically amazing that you would like to have on your show, who would it be?
Michael J. Fox, I'd love to get him on the show. Robin Williams would have been awesome. The same with Muhammad Ali. Those three would have been my dream lineup. But I still think we get Michael J. Fox.
Yes. That would be amazing. So we spoke about Rocksteady Boxing, we spoke about Radio Parkies and the podcast. What are your next big projects? What is on your mind for the next few years that would be maybe taking you in a different direction again?
Next few years, I'm focused on helping people exercise. So I'm joining the board of the Row for Parkinson's million-meter row. We just recently did one. We did 1 million meters in a day, connecting local gyms to row. Well, why rowing is good for you? It works 85% of your muscles. It's great cardiovascular work, and it works your core. Your core is essential for balance and stability. I was actually started to fall 3 years ago. Then I joined a local gym here near my house, which is a CrossFit gym. Anybody with young onset Parkinson's, I implore you to check out your local CrossFit gyms, because every exercise is geared to help your core. I've been following in 3 years, started going there, and life's been a lot safer since.
Yes. So your journey on the Parkinson's road started in 2006, and you talk us through some of the important milestones as well as some of the future projects that you would like to pursue. What would you say has changed most in your journey? I remember that you mentioned on your LinkedIn profile that you wished you hadn't spent those 8 years working after diagnosis. So there were some, I guess, bifurcations that you took that you may take differently now, but what would you say has changed most looking back at yourself a few years back, or maybe 15 years back compared to now?
Question. From when I started Parkinson's, I was always worried about what's coming next. What's coming next? Every time I felt a symptom, I would panic. It was an awful feeling, and I thought money was everything. I was so consumed making money back then. Money's not everything. We found out we can live with less. And today, when I feel a new symptom coming, I just look to see what I can do to help slow it down. That in the past, I used to panic and think that was it. It's a long time you're gonna have this disease for us and finding out. So you need to adapt, accept what's going on, and think through how to fight back against it.
Thank you very much. Those are very important lessons. Thank you, Michael, for sharing them with us. So looking at the future now, in the next 5 years, not only what you would do, but what would be your biggest hope, generally speaking, concerning this condition in the next 5 years?
Well, from what I'm understanding, the people I've interviewed have told me that Parkinson's is more than one disease, from what I understand. It's multiple diseases. Everyone has a different version of it, like cancer almost. So I'm hoping for individualized care is going to come through within the next 5 years, instead of this one fits all group mentality, because it's not working anymore. So I hope everyone's going to have different ways to care for themselves that can slow this disease right to a stop, hopefully.
Yes, absolutely. When we basically spoke to Jimmy Choi last year, he basically also spent half an hour with us. That was basically his hope, and his belief is that we probably will struggle to eradicate the condition entirely, but there was more reasonable hope to be had that we could slow it down or stop it in its tracks. So I think that you share that opinion.
Absolutely.
Okay. So maybe the last question from me, and then I will go back to the chat because I see a few more questions there that are referring to earlier parts of our discussion. But I just wanted to ask you, what would be the most, I think you've answered that already partly, but what would be the most important piece of advice you would give to the audience based on your experience?
Keep moving. Don't stop. I've seen people stop at having disease so long, and I see them begin to look sick, as opposed when they keep moving, keeps you healthy, eat right, and just live your life. Don't let it get into your head, because it will.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you very much, Michael. Look, before we basically open up to the audience live, I just wanted to go back to some questions that I basically overlooked temporarily because we had moved on from the topic. But actually, Gary was asking about, Sarah was asking about ping pong for PD. Do you have any thoughts on ping pong for PD versus boxing?
It was a great show with Trent McLean. Trent had documented evidence that ping pong, through the quick movements, the brain having good depth, make quick thoughts, quick actions, it really helped the neuroplasticity. I haven't played ping pong yet, but the evidence is there that it does help people with Parkinson's.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that Gary basically has posted a few things as well, basically ping pong Parkinson info. I think that we can support our audience there with information from Gary, I think, and some other people on the chat. Mark had a question going back to your audience for the radio Parkies. What is the demographic? Because it is true that sometimes in certain circles we see that actually Parkinson's audiences tend to be a lot of elderly people, and it is seen from the outside as an elderly people illness. It is not. I mean, as we can see from the people on this forum tonight, it touches people from all age, and Matt Eagles even got it when he was 7. But what is the audience of your radio show? Do you have an idea?
Yeah, we're mostly young onset Parkinson people. It seems to me that young onset is my core audience right now, because they're the ones who call and respond to the show. I'm also working, so you guys know, I'm also working with a young onset group right now that I'm hoping we're going to merge so the show can reach a wider audience.
Excellent. Okay. Stephen had a question about your advice to exercise and, or maybe even, I don't think we mentioned that, but meditation. So do you find that, for instance, exercise is of a greater benefit when you're in an anxious state? Does it help your mind as well as your body?
Repeat that again.
Do you find that exercise is basically more helpful when you are in an anxious state? Does it then help your mind as well as your body?
Absolutely, it can. It's what it's all about. It helps free endorphins. You get endorphins in your brain, which makes you happier. You smile when you're done boxing. It's better than drugs.
I would say you smile when you're boxing. It depends with whom, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I think this is it for the questions on the chat. Do we have any other questions from the audience? No?
They've heard the show.
Yes, I was going to say, maybe just to remind people how to see your show. I think they need to connect to radioparkies.com, and you are live every Thursday evening at 6 p.m. EST.
Yes.
And then it will be posted on the podcast, which is www.parkinsonspodcast.net.
That's my website, yep. And I can send you the link for the Podbean account when we're all done.
Absolutely. Here. I'd love that. Excellent. Well, look, thank you very much, Michael, for your time. And actually, I must say that for me, I'm particularly keen to hear from someone who has been diagnosed in 2006 and managed to go through that journey as well as you do. It's a struggle for everyone at times, but I think that you're a true inspiration. And I think the messages that I'm getting out of what you said, they really are exercise, get your ass off the chair, so to speak. As one, it is good for your body, it is good for your mind, nutrition, basically enjoy life. Don't focus too much about running after money. Enjoy life today instead of worrying about the future. I think this is really it, right?
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, everyone, for joining today. And we will post the recording of this in a couple of days on our YouTube channel. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.